thousands of years ago, they were Apollo, Zeus, Ares. Now they are Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and the other heroes and villains of DC and Marvel Comics. Join us every week as we discuss the legendary stories, characters, concepts, and other parts of comics as we examine the modern pantheon of heroes. Let's get heroic. Welcome to Under Two Capes, the podcast for the comic book fan. Welcome to Under Two Capes. I am Jared. Lad had a scheduling conflict, so it'll just be me today, people. So I got a couple of announcements. Number one, we're moving the Arrowverse episode that I know was supposed to be this week. We're moving it to when Lad can talk about it because he and I are like equal Arrowverse nerds, so we really want to talk about that together. Second off, we now have a YouTube channel, Under Two Capes Podcast. On there, we're going to have we have the new show. The first episode of the new show talking about DC Future State is on there. And I'm going to start putting the podcast episodes on there as well. And then we're also going to start having other shows about different fandoms on the YouTube channel. Like I'm going to start a Star Wars podcast with another friend of mine that goes exclusively to on the YouTube channel. So check that out. All right. So since we're not talking about the Arrowverse, I figured we would, but we're still doing a DC story. I figured let's talk about the next chapter in the new 52 Justice League run, The Villain's Journey, Volume 2. This collects Justice Leagues 7 through 12, and this contains one of the most, let me see how to properly phrase this. One of the most unique moments of DC history, particularly for the Prime continuity. Those of you that know me know what I'm talking about. If it includes Justice League number 12. All right, well, anyways. All right. So this is taking place 5 years after I believe 5 years after the previous Justice League comic. It picks up in Baltimore, Maryland, and you have the typical scene of like a bunch of creatures attacking some civilians. Colonel Steve Trevor and Argus show up and start wasting fools with guns. Then all of a sudden, everyone's like, "Oh my gosh, it's the Justice League!" The League arrives and kicks ass as they normally do. And then so they're strategizing on how to they're strategizing on their next move. It was kind of funny as they're like talking, Green Lantern like uses lantern ring to construct little umbrellas over everyone, and Aquaman's like, "Dude, don't need an umbrella, dude." So then they all strategize, and then they fall out, and of course Green Lantern goes off by himself because he's a hothead. And then the Green Lantern and Flash run into like the mega creature. And then, of course, the rest of the league show up and help them and help the two guys end this. It's kind of funny as Lantern is evacuating a civilian. He goes, "So you're divorced, huh?" So he's like trying to get the girl to pick him up. So then, so 1 hour later, you have basically the idea that it's a government hearing. So Steve Trevor is like the public face of the league. It's essentially there's just essentially kind of like a congressional committee on the league, and Trevor's the public voice of the Justice League officially. He's having a press conference with some reporters. They're talking about how they don't really seem very let's see. Okay, so it's interesting is that the people apparently think that the league is like this big group of, and they call them super friends. But yeah, and Lad, if you're listening, that's for you. They actually call them super friends. What happens is what's going to be revealed later is that, remember, the league is still like relatively young, so it's not like they have a lot of experience being a team. A lot of them up to that point were used to being like solo acts, like Batman, obviously, Superman, Wonder Woman, Lantern, Flash. In fact, repeatedly in Origin, the first volume, when we covered that, they repeatedly said we don't work together on teams. So humorously, this is another thing. So some guy makes a lewd comment about Wonder Woman, and Steve Trevor breaks his hand. So of course, and then Steve Trevor is in front of a congressional subcommittee on the Justice League, and this is a funny thing. Is that they go? So when can we, the Congress goes? When can we visit the League on their watchtower? And then Steve Trevor basically goes, "You haven't been invited to go." So it's kind of like he's putting Congress in their place. So one point, so Trevor is FaceTiming Wonder Woman, because remember, at this point they're like ex-girl, they're like not together anymore. They're exes, and it's really showing that it's like not making Steve so happy, because he still loves Wonder Woman. She doesn't, because she didn't want to commit. I sound like a romance novel writer. But it's like, so everyone's like, so it's kind of funny. It's like he sees the whole background conversation, like Lantern and Batman are in the middle of an argument. Then Flash tries to intervene, and then Lantern and Bats go, "Stay out of it." So eventually they log off the call, and then of course Steve Trevor vents to his secretary about still loving Wonder Woman. So now what you also have is that it opens up on this character named David Graves. He'll be revealed later in terms of his role. So basically, he's writing a letter on how to take out the League. And he said, if you wanted to take out the League, you got to go to Steve Trevor first. So basically, this is foreshadowing that's going to show up in the rest of the issues. So next, you start opening up with, okay, so now you got Green Arrow. He's running around the city as it's being blown up by Amazo. And then the League shows up, and then they obviously the League, they take care of Amazo. Amazo is this android that he basically, if he sees a superhero, he can like, I guess, copy their powers. It's like if you saw the Young Justice TV series, you had that character that goes like accessing Superman, and then all of a sudden he had the powers of Superman. That's essentially who that is. So they're talking about Amazo, and they're talking about how to properly contain him before he reboots. And then it's kind of funny. Green Arrow comes upon, and he's total fanboying about the whole thing. And then what happens is you see, what this is really showing is that let me see. What this is really showing is that Green Arrow really wants to join the League. So he's like really campaigning on, hey, how do I get? How can I join the team? And he's like, no, we're good. We already got a green guy. So it's basically the next couple of pages are like it's a sort of montage of Green Arrow showing up at all these different occasions, sometimes screwing up the Justice League's mission, and saying, hey, so can I join up? And then again it happens, and then so Green Arrow shows up, and Steve Trevor actually offers him a chance to join his version of the Justice League, which is called the Justice League of America. That'll be revealed later. I mean, it's already revealed. That'll be discussed later on in Jeff Johns' Justice League run by this whole volume. Like the first, I'd say 4 or so. Actually, did Jeff Johns do like all of the mainline Justice League stories? I think he did. Justice League and pretty much. And again, Jeff Johns is amazing. Jim Lee's art is amazing. once again, I mentioned about how Jeff Johns is my favorite writer and Jim Lee is my favorite artist. You guys really, really take care of that. So then what's showing is that the league is talking about how the last time they tried to bring someone on board the team, it didn't end well, which is like Martian Manhunter apparently came to blows with the Justice League. I'm going to try and find that comic because that actually looks pretty cool. They had that double page spread of Manhunter fighting the full league. So next we pick up with David Graves. He is one of the, so what he is, so I believe he's the one that actually gave them the name the Justice League. And he was a book writer and chronicling their stories. He got, I think it was like cancer from Darkseid's invasion, like some type of energy infected him. First off, it killed his family. So obviously he has a vendetta against the League. And then what happens is he decides at this point to go on a rampage against the League. So he's starting to target them. So you have so we pick up with Steve Trevor. He goes and visits his sister. This is just mainline, just people talking about how ever since people found out he was associated with Wonder Woman and he's the liaison to the Justice League, he gets cameras shoved in his face all the time. Next, we actually have a really good, well, first off, what was interesting is this comic ties directly into Flashpoint because when we next see Batman, he's staring at the note that Flashpoint Batman Thomas Wayne gave to Barry Allen before Barry went back and the continuity changed to the New 52 storyline. So I think that's really great. So next what you have is, so next we pick up with, like, in my opinion, was a pretty good scene. We have, you have Lois Lane. She's coming around the Daily Planet saying, "Hey man, we're all going out for lunch or something like that." And so basically, everyone invites everyone except Clark Kent. And then all of a sudden, Bruce texts me. He's like, "Got lunch plans." And then obviously with Batman, lunch plans means come and help me save Arkham Asylum. What this shows is that it's like Clark has a flashback to his past on Smallville, being picked last for a basketball team. So really just, and this is really hinting at the fact that he feels isolated, being like so powerful, not able to like show who you really are. But around the Justice League, he can. So next we have, let's see what else. Okay, so we have the Flash, and so I'm skipping around here a little bit. All right, so Superman and Cyborg arrive at Arkham Asylum during a jailbreak, and like the whole situation ends like that. So next, we have, all right. It's, again, Steve Trevor comes home, sees in the TV show another thing about him being Wonder Woman's boyfriend. But but David Graves, as the first part of his plan, remember I mentioned this in his note, that he wanted to start screwing with the League. So he kidnaps, so Graves kidnaps Trevor because he knows if you want to get to the League, you go through Trevor. So next, there's this great scene where Lantern and Flash are already like, have already completed a scenario. They're done fighting the supervillain. But they know he won't talk, so they start saying, okay, so we're going to do the good cop, bad cop. So Flash desperately wants to be the bad cop, and Lantern wants to be the good. Wait. All right. So Flash wants to be bad cop, and so what's kind of funny is that Lantern shows up and goes, "Okay, man, the Flash is really, really, really angry right now, and he needs you to talk because he can vibrate his hand in your brain and turn it into soup." Unfortunately, Oh, it's really funny is that the Flash then shows up, and then he tries to intimidate the supervillain. It doesn't work out. So in other words, Flash is terrible at playing bad cop. So, so what they do is like, okay, we're just going to call her, and then Wonder Woman shows up. And then Wonder Woman's like, I thought you were a bad cop. So then they just decide, okay, so just use your lasso of truth. So and then this is where we're starting to get an indication on who Graves is, because the supervillain is saying, hey, actually this supervillain and one of the people in Arkham was talking about how someone named Graves told us to start screwing with you. And so then we pick up to Steve Trevor. He's really a mess. He gets beaten up, and even Graves grabs him and crushes his hand. Because remember, his whole plan is to go after the League. So he kidnaps Steve Trevor knowing they would come, at least from Wonder Woman. So next we get sort of an indication about, so the next part of the story takes place 3 years ago, deep in the Pamir Mountains of Central Asia. We pick up with Graves. His family has just died, so he's trying to find like this ancient temple where apparently they can bring his family back to life. So he opens this temple. The temple is essentially how he gets his powers. So then we pick up with Steve Trevor in the present day, and he escapes because of his broken hand. He's able to like slide it out of the grate, and then he gets picked up by some ghosts. That'll make sense later. So next you pick up with Aquaman. He's doing some superheroing on the ocean. So then it's kind of interesting about how people are making fun of Aquaman, going, hey, what's your qualifications for being on the League? He's like, there are a lot, a reporter in typical reporter fashion goes, hey, Aquaman, how'd you get on the League anyway? Why did they pick you as a League why did they pick you as a member of the Justice League? Was it just right place, right time? There are a lot of superheroes out there with greater qualifications than Aquaman, don't you think? So that's typical. It's typical reporter BS. So again, Cyborg calls and goes, Aquaman, we need a little. We need some backup. We need you to return to the Watchtower because we have a lead on this apparently coordinated effort by supervillains. So Batman is saying, hey, listen, this is weird because each of these villains are specifically like targeted against us. And he goes, because Graves knows everything about us, particularly our weaknesses. So this is interesting is that Superman and Batman reveal that they have a working relationship outside of the League. So it's like they team up all the time. This is where you get all those Batman, Superman comics. And then so where they tell him, oh yeah, I'm a writer. I'm actually a reporter outside of the Daily Planet. I mean, he didn't say Daily Planet yet, but he goes, I'm a writer, and I love that Batman's like, I don't like Aquaman's like, I don't like reporters, which once again, we got a clear indication of that. So then what's interesting is that then David Graves somehow gets onto the Watchtower. So the League goes to fight. He starts taunting Wonder Woman with saying, oh yeah, Steve Trevor screamed too, or something like that. Then he starts intimidating Wonder Woman. Because what happens with David Graves is that when he touches, is that the spirits that are inhabiting his body, they show you, they give you like hallucinations of all the times you lost someone. Like with Wonder Woman, it shows her mother being turned to stone. With you see Hal Jordan is seeing his father get blown up in the plane crash. Batman is seeing his parents. Let's see who else. But basically, Graves is like completely. He completely like defeats the League, except for Batman, because Batman has, again, because he's Batman, has trained his body to a point he can overcome any type of fear or any type of personal feeling per se. Somehow he manages to get out of it because he's Batman again. So then the League recovers. It tells everyone what they saw. Like again, Green Lantern sees his father crash because his father was a test pilot. Superman saw his Earth father, John Kent, have a heart attack and die. And again, Batman saw his actual family. He doesn't tell anyone that, but he saw his family die. Then Graves is talking to. He actually goes to visit Steve Trevor's sister and starts screwing around with her. Then the League shows up, and the mother, Steve Trevor's sister, pretty much starts reaming into Wonder Woman, saying, "Hey, Graves kidnapped Steve because of you." Then Wonder Woman flies off half-cocked to go after Graves, which not really a good idea because once again she's part of a team now, and this is showing again that these heroes aren't really used to working with a team to the point where, so she's walking away. Green Lantern Force projects a shield in front of her. She goes, "Okay, so drop the shield." Lantern goes, "No." And then Wonder Woman goes ballistic and like knocks Hal Jordan into a bunch of cars. And then they actually start a fight. And then once again, Wonder Woman like kicks Superman. And then so what Batman does is have Cyborg teleport them away. So it's just because their fight is being televised on TV, and that's not exactly making the League look good. So then finally everyone calms down, and they've been teleported to actually Graves' house. And they finally figure out, okay, so he went to this to that temple that we were shown earlier in the story. So the League goes to that temple, and they encounter again those spirits that show everyone that you've lost. But then what's interesting is that then the spirit starts showing Steve Trevor to Wonder Woman. Which is interesting because it makes you think, was Wonder Woman killed? So then in this story, so now we're seeing a little more. So as the next issue opens up, we see the fight on TV, and then we see hang on. Okay, so what's interesting is that people are talking about the TV, the fight. And then everyone, for some reason, is pointing the finger at Steve Trevor, and everyone's like, "Well, yeah, because Steve Trevor was kidnapped, and the leading suspect is David Graves, who was an advocate." Was ironic because, well, here's how he knows everything about the League. He was a major advocate for them. And again, he wrote the book about them. So once again, we refer back to the modern day with the League, and then they're fighting all of these. They're trying to fight back their fears, and then so then it starts to go against Lee, and the Steve Trevor shows up and shoots Graves in the back of the head. Doesn't kill him because Graves is kind of possessed by spirits, but it distracts him enough for the League to shake out of their trances and then start pounding Graves, because after all, they're the Justice League. They're to quote Marvel, Earth's mightiest heroes. And they finally defeat Graves. They separate him from his spirits, and he kind of reverts back to his old man self. well, and not really old man self, just the self that was deteriorating. Because remember, I told you he got like, I think it was like lots of cancer from he was exposed to like Darkseid's boom tube energy when because he was present in Metropolis during the invasion discussed in Justice League Origin. So then it talks about, okay, so that situation has been taken care of. Steve Trevor's in the hospital, and Wonder Woman goes to visit him. And she says that because you were associated with the League, Graves came after you, so we're going to ask for another advocate. We're going to ask for another liaison. So Steve Trevor was rejected by Wonder Woman again. So then back in the Watchtower, the League is trying to figure out how to spin that whole fight in order to regain public opinion, because it didn't look good for Earth's mightiest heroes to be fighting amongst each other. So Lantern says, hey, just pin the fight on me, because I'll take a leap of absence. I don't necessarily have to be on the League. I'm a space cop anyway. I spend most of my time in outer space. So, he basically says, just put the blame on me. I'll take the fall. So Lantern leaves, and then so now we got to that moment I teased in the beginning of the episode. So Wonder Woman is at the Lincoln Memorial, sitting, feeling upset that she made Steve super angry, and Superman shows up. He goes, "How's Steve?" She goes, "Angry." I'm gonna actually redo the entire interaction between these two because I think it's important. So here's Wonder Woman. When I first came here from Paradise Island, I was shocked to see that men and women weren't at war like I'd grown up believing. They were in relationships. For a short time, I thought the relationships were simple. If they liked one another, they were together. But I couldn't have been more wrong. Superman says relationships are complicated, for us even more so. So Superman goes into the story saying, okay, so I have another identity. Wonder Woman goes, okay, so you're a reporter, right? And then Clark Kent's like, Superman tells her name is Clark Kent. She said, why do you have an identity like that? Superman says, I grew up with it, and I kept it when Superman came on the scene to protect the people I'm close to. Wonder Woman, and it worked. Superman, I don't know. I still have to keep secrets from everyone. So how close I am to anyone is debatable. Now Wonder Woman, she goes, we're not like Zeus, but we're not like them either. Superman, we're not like anyone. Wonder Woman, people like us really are alone, aren't we? Do you ever feel alone? And Superman goes, of course I, ... do. And then they kiss. Now, I remember reading about this on like IGN when this went down in like 2000, I think it was 2012 or 13, somewhere around there. I was on Facebook that day. 2013 is when the actual, I think the actual collected edition happened. But the point is that I remember back in the day when that actually happened, I was like, oh, wow, really? Because it's been severely hinted at like many, many times in DC continuity. There's been alternate storylines. There's been like stories where they almost got together. There's been future storylines like Kingdom Come, which we are going to do an episode on. A story like Kingdom Come when Superman and Wonder Woman eventually ended up together and having a kid. Right? Superman's the only one to ever give Wonder Woman a child. No, that wasn't in the main continuity. That was in Kingdom Come. So anyway, we leave that moment. Then we go to Bellevue Prison. And of course, Amanda Waller shows up. She gives him a typewriter and says, okay, I got a new book that I want you to write for me. I want you to write how to destroy the Justice League. So in other words, she's laying the groundwork for when she forms her own sort of Justice League team that's designed to fight the League if they ever go evil. And that's the Justice League of America. I'm going to go into that once we get to those storylines. So then the epilogue, we catch up with a being named Pandora, and in DC Comics continuity, yes, this is the Pandora who opened Pandora's box, which in DC Comics it looks like a skull. What they're starting to do here is lay the groundwork for a storyline called Trinity War, which is actually the storyline, my first storyline I ever read in comic books whatsoever. What they're showing is that, so she's trying to open Pandora's box. So basically, her whole thing is that she was actually manipulating to opening the box, and she's trying to go back because remember she was cursed to walk the earth forever, just because she was curious. And even the wizard Shazam, like the one that gives Billy Batson his powers, shows up and goes, "Hey, I'm sorry that we punished you so because we were," excuse me, not corona. I just have a dry throat because I haven't drinking water yet. But the wizard goes, "You were just innocent. You were just curious. Well, you didn't deserve your punishment." Jeez. The wizard escapes. And then you also have kind of a tease of the Question, which is another DC Comics character. So that's Origin. Let me tell you, the ending to Justice League number 12 was quite the buzz moment. In fact, I'm going to Google a story from that time because I can find that on because it was the very first time that that Superman and Wonder Woman have ever kissed, ever. So it's one of those things where it's like, oh wow, they really went all out on that one. I mean, it's one of those things that it makes sense. I know it wasn't really popular with a lot of the even CBS News picked up on it. Jeez. Let's see, what are they talking about? In the latest episode of Passion Embrace, the couple's kiss, the culmination of dramatic storyline, first ever DC. Yeah, so it's interesting. Okay, so I'm reading a CBS News article from 2012 talking about the kiss, and this is what Jim Lee had to say. This has been in the works for some time. We certainly haven't pulled the trigger on without there being a great creative benefit to the liaison. It means the kiss. He explains in an email, beyond the joy and sorrow of new love, there are potentially huge ramifications and dramatic ways the single relationship between these iconic characters will change the entire political and interpersonal landscape of the DC universe. And we see a lot of this later on in the Superman Wonder Woman comic storyline, which I'm going to cover after I do Throne of Atlantis, because Throne of Atlantis really establishes that they are together. Let's see, what else? Okay, so it's not the first time that they have kissed. Once again, you had. Okay, so that there was Kingdom Come. You also had in Frank Miller's Batman Returns, the Batman Strikes Again. They were a couple. They even had a child at that point, and then. Okay, so now you may be wondering, where's Lois Lane? She's just around. She and Clark are friends. She doesn't know he's Superman, and they've never really tied the knot in that sense. So now I know a lot of fans. See, here's the thing about comic book fans: they don't like change at all, which I get that. There are certain continuity changes that I hate whatsoever. It's like annoying. But there's a certain point where you can see the you can see the story potential for this. But we are definitely going to probably, I'd say, okay. So next episode, the next episode with Lad will be the Arrowverse episode, because we definitely have to do that. And then we're gonna go back to Marvel, but after that, after the Marvel go around, we're gonna do Throne of Atlantis, and then the first Superman Wonder Woman volume. So once again, we're getting back into our storyline modes. Once again, this will be on the YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe to that. Also, I will probably have a news episode out tomorrow. Then I'm trying to get the Star Wars show started up, so I'll let you know how that goes. Also, and make sure to follow the Instagram page, because the Instagram page has a lot of our announcements on what episodes we covered, and you can drop it. You can DM us and tell us like what stories you want us to cover. But let's see, what else can we talk about here? Let's talk about. There's so much that we can actually talk about here. We can talk about. All right, so we are going to discuss. Okay, so there actually was news, and I'm going to talk about this on the show tomorrow, but I'll still drop a little tease in here that Jared Leto's Joker is going to show up in Suicide Squad. I mean, of course, it's Suicide Squad. And not the new one. What I mean is that he's going to show up in Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I think is pretty cool. I don't think it'll be like anything like he'll be a major threat. I think it'll be more like he's going to be like he's going to be probably like a flashback, or like when we see Batman. It's like Zack Snyder's Justice League is probably not going to show up. It's not. I mean, it's not going to start with Batman saving that. Using that criminal as bait for the Parademon. I believe that was a Whedon thing. It's probably going to start. It's probably still going to start off with Batman, or you know what? It could start off with anyone, but I can imagine it's going to be like an establishing, like, here's what Batman is doing in the beginning of the movie. He's probably hunting Joker, and then he gets information on like where Aquaman is, and then he starts assembling the team and so forth. And then there's also news that's okay. So, assuming that the rumor is correct and Ben Affleck signed on to be Batman for HBO Max, it's also that Jared Leto is going to be the Joker in that movie, and like all of basically. Jared Leto is going to be Ben Affleck's Joker. So cool. So cool. Because I thought he was a pretty good Joker. Obviously, he wasn't as good as Heath Ledger. But that's really like, that's like a real, I don't think any Joker actor is really going to be able to pass through that. It's like, oh man. It's really hard to like pass to like, it's extremely difficult to pass Heath Ledger as a good Joker, because he really went all out. R.I.P. man, R.I.P. But so once again, I'm going to go into more detail on that in the news show tomorrow. But so let's see, what else can we talk about before I log off for the night? So yeah, well, once again, definitely go to the YouTube channel. You can find us at Under Two Capes Podcast, and it has the same profile picture as this one does on Spotify and all the stuff. So it's really easy to find us. We have the channel trailers on there. We have the new show, and we have lots of cool stuff coming out on the YouTube channel. So definitely go check that out. And then we have a couple of interesting projects we're working on in the works. We have to iron out a few details, but we have a little surprise project we're working on. It's going to be a real good one. Anyway, guys, thanks for listening. And anyway, stay heroic. And Lad, I hope to see you on the show next time so we can talk about the Arrowverse. Really want to talk about that with you. All right, everyone. Have a good day.